The first message arrived at 2:17 a.m. Still writing sad little poems about me? Samantha blinked at the screen, the blue glow of her phone cutting through the dark. It had been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, but her ex-husband, Daniel, still found new ways to slip into her nights like a ghost she hadn't fully exorcised. Her fingers trembled. She wanted to ignore it. She usually did, but the humiliation crawled under her skin. She could almost hear his smug voice, that quiet, cruel chuckle that used to follow every insult disguised as honesty. Once upon a time, he'd been her muse. Now, he was her material. The book had started as therapy. After Daniel left her for a younger co-worker, the same woman who had attended their wedding as a guest, Samantha had needed somewhere to put the pieces. She began writing late at night, typing until her fingers ached, building scenes from memory. The lies, the laughter, the dinners that ended in silence. She never intended for it to become a novel. But her agent, Kelly, read the first draft and called her sobbing. This isn't just heartbreak, Sam. This is truth. This is every woman who ever blamed herself for being too much or not enough. Samantha wasn't sure. The story, titled Ashes of Us, was too personal, too raw. She'd written it under a pseudonym, Eleanor Vale, a name she thought no one would trace back to her. Yet as the weeks passed, her words took on a life of their own. Bloggers quoted her passages. Women highlighted entire chapters on Instagram. The story spread like wildfire, and Daniel noticed. It started with mockery. He sent her screenshots of online reviews with sarcastic notes. Didn't know you could write, honey. Guess bitterness sells. Then, as the book climbed the charts, the tone changed. Are you sure this isn't defamation? Sounds awfully familiar. She didn't respond. Not to that. Not to the veiled threats. Not to the bitterness behind his words. She had learned silence could be the sharpest blade. But when she walked into the bookstore one evening and saw Ashes of Us displayed on a front table with a national bestseller tag beneath it, something shifted inside her. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not by him, but by herself. Flashback. The night she found out about the affair, rain was tapping the kitchen window. Daniel's phone had buzzed on the counter while he showered. A single message preview glowed across the screen. Can't wait to see you again, Dee. Last night was perfect. Her chest tightened. The message wasn't proof, but it was enough. Enough to break the fragile calm she'd been clinging to. She opened the phone. Pictures. A hotel receipt. Texts filled with pet names he'd never called her. When Daniel stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, she was holding the phone. He froze, then smiled. Are you seriously going through my phone again? I didn't. Her voice shook. You left it unlocked. He shrugged, walking past her, the scent of his body wash heavy in the air. So what if I did? You've been distant for months. What did you expect me to do? The words hit her harder than any confession. She realized then it wasn't guilt he felt. It was contempt. Back in the present, months later, Daniel's voice surfaced again, this time on social media. A clip from a podcast began circulating. He was seated across from a host, smirking under studio lights. She based the book on me, he said. A bitter ex trying to make money off a failed marriage. Classic, right? The audience laughed. He basked in it. Samantha watched it from her living room, her stomach turning. Every word, every gesture was a performance of control. But what he didn't realize was that the truth was no longer his to bury. That night, her publisher called. Sam, Kelly's voice trembled with excitement. The New York Times just picked up your story for a feature. They want an interview. Eleanor Vale, in person. Samantha froze. In person? Kelly hesitated. Yes, they want the real face behind the book. She thought about it for days. Revealing herself meant giving Daniel power again, or taking it away entirely. The morning of the interview, she chose a black suit. No makeup, just red lipstick, his least favorite color. When the article dropped a week later, it went viral. Author behind Bestseller Ashes of Us reveals true identity. Her picture was everywhere, and beneath the headline, a quote that set the internet ablaze. I didn't write Ashes of Us to expose him. I wrote it to reclaim myself. Daniel's messages came rapid fire that night. You think you're some kind of hero. You ruined my life. You'll regret this. Samantha turned off her phone. The next morning, her lawyer called. Daniel's threatening to sue, he said. But there's no case. You changed all identifying details. He can't prove anything. She laughed, a real, raw laugh that echoed in the quiet of her kitchen. Outside, autumn leaves swirled against the window, the same color as the lipstick she'd worn for her interview. Weeks passed. Her book tour began. Women lined up with copies of Ashes of Us, tears in their eyes. They told her their stories, cheating husbands, emotional abuse, gaslighting that left them questioning reality. Each confession felt like a mirror reflecting a different version of her own pain. She signed every book with the same inscription. You're not crazy. You are not alone. The night of her last signing, she looked up from the table and froze. Daniel was there. He stood at the back of the crowd, watching her. Clean-shaven, dressed in a suit too expensive for a man who'd just lost half his assets in divorce court. His eyes locked onto hers, daring her to flinch. For a second, old fear returned, the kind that used to silence her. But then a young woman stepped forward, clutching her book, saying softly, "Your words saved me." Samantha smiled. The fear evaporated. Daniel turned and walked out, unnoticed by everyone except her. Months later, she received an anonymous email, a photograph of him sitting alone at a bar, his face lit by the glow of a television screen playing an interview. Her interview. No words, just a picture. She closed her laptop, leaned back, and let the quiet fill the room. He had mocked her for being alone. Now, he was the one left with nothing but his reflection and regret. And she had built an empire from the ashes.